Alright, hey guys. So yeah, you're gonna have a look at starting to play Dofus. Obviously, it's a bit of a hard game to kind of get yourself going on. So I wanted to do a bit of a guide just to get you started. So first and foremost, as soon as you log into the game for the first time, you are going to be presented with this screen. So loads of characters to choose from. It can be very difficult to think, okay, well, on here it says it's a damage dealer. The Yoggonak is also a tank and a debuffer. But what does that mean? So I want to quickly go through some of the characters. Let's try find your kind of play style and see which one is going to be most suited for you. So the first class is an IOP. So difficulty, quite an easy class to play. It can do huge amounts of damage. They are a buffer, so they can boost damage, action points and health, and also positioner. So the game itself almost works a little bit like a game of chess. So it is moving your characters to the correct positions. So being able to use an IOP for positioning, not just yourself but other characters as well, can be extremely helpful. Buffer, so boosting damage, everyone's pretty obvious. The more damage you do, the better. Action points, all of the spells you will obtain in the game all cost action points AP. And then health points, the more health you have, and later on the better resistances you have, your survivability in the game will definitely go up. And then obviously the top one is damage dealer, so single target or area of effect. So with single, you're just attacking one single target. The area of effect, you can hit multiple targets all in one, a little bit like this video just down here then. So IOPs are great if you like getting stuck in the middle of the action and then doing a large amount of damage, but you're not necessarily going to be safe the whole time. You might end up taking quite a bit of extra damage. Kras are definitely a fantastic class, one of my personal favorites. Again, difficulty is quite easy. So damage dealer, they do a huge amount of damage. They are a fantastic class for solo and group play. Debuffing, they can remove movement points. So like I said, the game is a little bit like a chess match. So being able to stop your opponents from moving can be a vital part of the game. It also takes action points, so you can stop, especially more in PvP, player versus player instances. They can stop people being able to attack you as many times. And they can also reduce an enemy's range. So if you can imagine a chessboard, say you can attack within 3 range. What if you remove that range, and now they can only attack within 1 range? They are able to do that. And then buffer, they can increase not only their own range, but also their allies' range. So anyone that is within a certain amount of spaces around them. And they can also increase their own damage. They are definitely a ranged character. You want to play them further away than a lot of characters. And they are quite susceptible to damage if they are in close combat, if they are within distance of an enemy. So you do want to keep them further away. But in my opinion, one of the best starting classes. Sacs, on the other hand, are a very interesting class. So they will tank. So they will sit right next to opponents and take damage. They are able to steal their HP back. So they will, a lot of attacks they do will steal some HP back so they can heal themselves. They are fantastic at positioning, so they can move enemies and allies around the map quite easily and usually do damage while doing that. And one of the unique things with the Sacria is the lower their HP, the more damage they do. So they can do a lot amount of damage, but again, they can be quite susceptible to taking a large amount of damage, depending on what level of challenges you're trying to do. But they are a really fun class, but they can be a little bit, I wouldn't say hard to use. They can be a little bit more situational. than some classes. And the next one is an Any Ripsa, so your classic healing character. So you do want to play these a little bit further back than a lot of the classes, but they can heal. They will keep your team alive. They will increase the action points, the AP of other team members. They can increase the movement points of other team members. They are an absolutely fantastic support player. Currently, post the upcoming update, they are not very good for solo playing, but as part of a team, they are absolutely fantastic. And the next one is the Shram. Awesome character in my opinion. So relatively easy to play. They can be a little bit tricky when you're trying certain things in higher level content in the game. They can deal a huge amount of damage. They can debuff, and they can remove movement points. They set up traps. So they will set up traps. When an enemy walks into one of those traps, it will trigger it. And some of these traps are just on single targets, just like one square on a chessboard. Some of them will infect AO in an area of effect. Certain traps will cause your enemies to move. They are also a fantastic positioner. They are able to push and move things around quite easily. And Shrams have the very unique thing of being able to go invisible, so enemies won't be able to see them. And they can also make an area of effect where anybody standing in it, any allies standing in it, will also go invisible. They are an awesome and fun class to play, and a good one for beginners. They do also like to use some poisons as well, which a little bit later down the track you'll discover if you do choose this class. Now, Oginax, a relatively new class to the game. They are taken from the inspiration of essentially a dog. So they will get up in your face, pretty much. Loads of huge damage. They can take damage quite easily. They're able to heal themselves very easily. They are a awesome class, especially for beginners. If you want to get up close and personal, deal loads of damage, this is a great class to go for. They work on a rage system, so the more rage you have, the more damage you're going to deal. But your allies can also benefit from that. So Forge Lance, they use their lance. So their lance becomes essentially a summon. So you'll place a summon of a lance on the map, and all of these lances do different effects depending on what you use. So they can do huge amounts of damage in an area of effect from distance and in close combat. So they can get up close and personal. They can play from a range. They're able to shield and heal the rest of your team. A little bit more of a complicated class, but definitely one worth playing around with and having some fun. Then you have an Osa, so the summoner, essentially. A little bit harder to play. They will summon loads of different things to fight by their side, and you will be able to control them. They're also able to heal and support their allies and increase action points and movement points and power. Not a very commonly used class at the moment, unfortunately, but hopefully at some point they will receive a bit of an update. But probably not the best class to start with, but if you want to give it a go, give it a go. Okay, now a very classic class. So this is the Enutroph. So basically a bit of a miner. So likes mining for gold, everything's to do with money or coins or mining. So they're very, very good at removing movement points from enemies. They're also good at removing action points and range. They do play from a distance, so you don't get up close and personal. They have certain summons which are able to push and move things around. They're able to heal other allies. And they also have the ability to buff their team as well as themselves. with quite a significant power increase. They are a fantastic class with multiple builds that you can play around with an Enutroph, and definitely recommend giving one of those a go. Really cool little character now. So this is the Eka Flip. So they are the unpredictable fighter. So they used to base themselves all on pure luck. So back in the day, you'd either hit or you wouldn't. These days, they are a lot more consistent. They can deal really big amounts of damage pretty much from anywhere. They've got really long range spells, they've got short range spells. They're able to move things around the map really easily. They're great for buffing yourself and other teammates, whether it's their action points or their damage. Or they can get random bonuses as well. So there is a summon where you hit it and you get and you can just get given random bonuses. Some of them are fantastic, others are completely useless. They're also very good at being able to heal teammates, and they also have some really cool summons that are also able to help, and it's one of my favorite classes. So the Foggernaut, they work around having turrets, so like an arrow, like a bow and arrow, like turret, or and things like that on the field, which can do different effects. So you have the lifesaver turrets, which specialize in healing. You've got the tack turrets, which are able to move and push and pull and swap places with things around the map. So, and then you also have the harpooner turret, which can deal really large amounts of damage. They do tend to play a little bit more from range, but they're an awesome class, and it might be for you. And then another one of my personal favorites, you have a Fecker. This is the one that is going to keep your team alive. So it is protection. They will get all of the monsters around them, keep themselves alive while protecting their allies. They can restrict the movement of the enemies. They can restrict their attack points, their AP. They can do so many things that can really keep a team going throughout a fight, and I do highly recommend giving a Fecker a good shot. They are a fantastic class, but yeah, definitely recommend that one. Hubber Mages, great with positioning. They are able to swap things pretty much the whole distance of the map. They are very, very versatile when it comes to movement. They're also able to buff using all different elements. Depending on what elements you use, the effects change, and they can also do huge amounts of damage as well. They can play in close combat, they can play from a distance, they can play a few squares out from opponents. They are a very, very versatile class. Not the easiest one to learn and play, but they are definitely a usable and fun class. Masquerader, very similar to a Fecker in a few ways. They are tanks most of the time, so they will get up close and personal, and they will shield all of the allies around them. Loads of protection, but at the same time they can also do large amounts of damage. They've got great movement. They can fly around the map so easily and quickly. They are a absolutely amazing class, and definitely worth giving a go if it is your first time. But yeah, so difficulty there is a 2-star. I would say it's a 1.5 star. They're not the most difficult class by any stretch, but obviously all classes do take a little bit just to get used to. The next one is one of the oldest classes. It's one of the original 12. So we have a Panda. Pandas like to drink. They are always drinking a good beer from the pub. They are one of the best in the game at positioning. They can pick up and throw things within certain amounts of squares around them. So their movement is invaluable to some teams. You need a panda for quite a few fights. Not many people, more common these days, but they are usually more of a support character. So they will tank, take loads of damage, and just be used to distract your opponents and take the damage. But in another capacity as a solo player, they can also deal some fantastic damage as well by picking up and throwing and moving things around at the same time as doing damage. Again, that is one of my personal favorites. Okay, the Heliotrope, a lot more of a difficult class to play, and I wouldn't recommend one of these for beginners, but if you really wanted to go for it, they are an absolutely incredible class. They can move around the map almost with free will by using portals. So they can place 2 portals, they step in the one, they pop out the other. And they can be almost anywhere on the map. They can deal huge amounts of damage, and they can also heal through those portals, as well as giving extra AP and MP to their allies. They are an amazing class, but a difficult one for beginners to learn. Okay, now this is my main account, so it is a Cedida. They are based off trees, brambles, all nature essentially. So they use something called the infected state. So you put one of these enemies into an infected state, then any other enemies in that infected state also take the same damage, or if you use a spell that removes movement points, everything in that infected state loses those movement points. So their debuffing skills, for me personally, are one of the best in the game. They have a lot of summons. They have summons that put things into that infected state I said about. They have summons that also remove movement points. They have summons that are mini tanks, so they will get up close and personal and block an enemy. They have summons that also do damage. Now, Saddies, even though they're not used for it very often, they are fantastic healers. So they can heal anyone that they put that is next to a summon, which is a tree. So the more trees you have, the better for a Saddie. They're not the biggest damage dealers, but with the infected state, if it's on everything, they can potentially do more damage than any class in the game. A bit of a statement there, and might not be the most popular opinion for everybody, but if it's done correctly, they can be one of the most valuable classes in the game. Now, the next one is Rogue, so explosives, so bombs. So you form little bomb lines. You might see just there on this 2 bombs in between, that will form a line. You can get these bombs bigger and bigger and bigger, and the amount of damage increases the more time they're on the field. So their damage can be absolutely huge. They're able to move things around the map very, very easily. They can pull, they can push, they can swap with bombs. And they're also able to be a really good debuffer, so they can take action points and take movements. They are a brilliant class, probably not quite used as much as they once were, but they're still a good fun class to play. Now, this one is the one I would say is probably the hardest class to learn. So it is the Zealot, so Master of Time, and it takes a lot of time to learn this class. They work around their dial, so they have a summon which essentially acts as like a medium location, and they can swap locations, have different effects that can deal huge amounts of damage, like buffing their own AP. Their damage is very, very big if you have the time to actually get all of your spells out in one turn. But their positioning is fantastic. I would not recommend this class as a beginner. I have been playing the game now for about 15 years, and I still rarely play mine. So probably not the easiest class. But that is a bit of a rundown on just starting classes. I hope it helps you pick out the class which is going to be right for you. And in the next video, I will go through what happens when you've chosen your character. Until then, I'll see you next time.